Hello, I'm back with a new video. Sorry I've been posting a little bit. I've been just extremely busy with some things going on. But I promise that I'll post every Monday and Wednesday going forward. I have a whole list of topics I want to get out there to you guys, so be prepared. I can see that you can see in the background my little dog. He's in the little cone of shame right now. He was biting his foot. He has horrible allergies, and he's been extremely attached to me. He makes me carry him wherever he wants to go. He's been crying a little bit, so he will be extremely close to me in the background. You probably won't even see him move. So that explains the cone of shame in the background. What I want to talk about today is something I've touched on a little bit in my other videos, but I think it warrants its own video, and that is my crazy relationship with medication. And the reason I think this deserves its own video is because I feel like a lot of people can relate to this. They just decide not to talk about it. And I didn't go on medication for real until I was about 28 years old. And the reason I think it took me so long is growing up, my stepfather was bipolar, and I mentioned that in previous videos. And he had the worst relationship with medication. He would tell me all the time how this medication would make him feel like a zombie, how he didn't feel like himself on it, that he would not feel anything at all, and he just hated it, so he would not take it. I have to admit, dealing with him growing up was sometimes a little hard, so I would sometimes crush his medication up and put it in his food. It sounds really bad in retrospect, but you had to have been there to understand. So I didn't go on medication in the first time when I was 23, because I was having really bad depression after my stepfather died. And I was going through a divorce, and everything was changing around me, and I really did not know how to deal with anything. So I had a doctor that prescribed me Lexapro, and I thought I felt better at first, but the medication made me completely suicidal. I tried to commit suicide twice on it, and if it wasn't for my brother intervening, I don't think I would have gotten help. He basically said I was not acting like myself and reached out to my mom, and they pretty much intervened, and I stopped taking it because of that whole situation. It was really bad, and it actually took me a few years to get my life back together after that situation, and that was only about 6 months. So it took me a long time to recover from the first time. So I absolutely adamantly was like, I knew it. I should not have went on medication, because I was the biggest believer of medication changes who you are. You shouldn't go on medication. And I just didn't want to do it because I didn't want to feel how my stepfather did. I didn't want to feel like a zombie. I didn't want to feel not like myself, because even though I had depression and these things going on in my life, I still liked who I was. I didn't want to change myself. I still had parts of my core personality that I really liked. And I thought medication would change that. And then going on this medication and having it actually do that, and having it make me feel suicidal to the point I actually wanted to do something, really solidified how I was feeling. So when I was 26, I started seeing a counselor, because I just couldn't deal with a lot of the issues I had from growing up. And I just could not. I was starting to get to the point where feeling sad or down all the time was starting to really get to me, and it was not how I wanted to live the rest of my life. I wanted to know what it meant to be happy and stay happy, I wanted to know what it felt like to feel real emotions besides just this constant like melancholy feeling where I was lost in my own head. So went to see a counselor and it actually really helped. I was able to work out a lot of issues and I wasn't so angry anymore because I found out through all this therapy that depression and anger pretty much go hand in. It was pretty much why I was so angry all the time and why I couldn't cope with a lot of the things I had going on was because of this. So it was really good. I was able to cope with everything and I felt really good for a while. And then I had some other things go on at a job I was working at. And I usually don't let work get to me very much. I usually leave work at work and home at home and personal life and friends. I'm pretty much can separate the aspects of my life very well. But I was working at this job and the general manager got fired for stealing. And then everyone else pretty much left or got fired for some reason. And I ended up taking the burden of all those people getting fired. The owner wanted me to do all these things that I really didn't have the skill set for. I was like not an accountant. I was not a finance person. And on top of all these other things, and then he would send me text messages and emails that were very angry and mean, and they just weighed on me so much. I've never had acne in my whole life. I started breaking out. I've always maintained my weight for the most part. I gained a bunch of weight. I my I usually have pretty full hair, like my hair, like everything started to physically reflect on me. So I went to see my doctor and she put me on Zoloft because this is just how I always felt, and then this situation aspirated it. So I went on my medication and everything, and she put me on anti-anxiety for that period until I could, chill. And then I ended up getting my job, which now I love. I like where I work. I couldn't be happier with my situation. But thing is, I tried to go off my medication then, and then I realized that now I was actually prescribed correctly, that I did not want to go off of it now because I went off of it and I just felt all this sadness that I felt before, all of that like down feeling. It felt like an anchor back on me. That's when I full on realized like, okay, this is just not gonna ever go away. And she made me see a psychologist, which is how I got my official diagnosis. And I went back and forth again, and like all people do with mental illness, I decided a few years, so I was about 31 at the time, I said, I don't need medication. I'm great. I'm perfect. Like, I feel wonderful. Like, I want to get off medication. I just want to be a normal person again. And I decided to go off of it. Well, it really wasn't the greatest idea. So I went off of it. And I literally, all the anger I had before, all the upset feelings I had before came back to me. And it just was not working out. So I decided to go back on my medication, and I've been on it ever since. So I've kind of had this little roller coaster ride a little bit. But I have to say, I know my story is not unique. I know other people who've had the same situation where they've gone up and down with taking medication, not taking medication. And I have to say, if you ever think you're okay and you want to go off of it, you're okay because you're on medication. And that's the one thing I have learned. Like, you're okay and you're feeling all right because you're on it. When you go off of it, when you have a mental condition, because I don't like saying illness. I hate saying I have a mental illness. I have a mental condition, and I need my medication to balance out whatever's in my head. So all I can say is the medication is why you're feeling that way. It's not that it fixed it and now you're good. It's you constantly need it to be okay. So one thing I have to stress about that, I really wish my stepfather could have realized that. I just think maybe sometimes he wasn't taking the proper medication like I was, but I know he was also at the point how I feel a lot of times when you see a counselor and you keep going, you get to the point where almost you're like aspirated and exhausted and still want to talk to anybody sometimes anymore. And we had each other to talk to, but at the end of the day, I can't prescribe him. The doctor can only do that. So I just wanted to stress that if you're going through the same type of thing I did, don't stop taking your medication if you have clinical depression or major mental illness, because the reason you're feeling better is because of that medication. And that's what I have to say for today. Take care of yourself, be well, be safe, and until next time.